Welcome to the deep dive, where we take these really complex blueprints, ambitious proposals, and just break them down into the core knowledge you need. And today we're looking at one of the great paradoxes of our time, really. I mean, think about it. We have poured these extraordinary resources into mapping Mars, into exploring distant galaxies, but the very system that covers 70% of our own planet, the ocean, it's still fragmented, it's underfunded, and honestly, it's mostly unseen.
And that disparity is really the problem we're confronting today. The source material we're looking at makes a truly staggering claim. We have mapped more of the surface of Mars in high resolution than we have our own seafloor.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's not just some, scientific fun fact. It's a failure to prioritize our planet's own life support system.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We have a blueprint in front of us for what is essentially an ocean NASA, a unified 21st century institution. They call it the Global Ocean Exploration and Stewardship Agency, or GOESA.
Right. Or sometimes the Global Ocean Institute, GOI. They use both. And our mission for this deep dive is to pull apart the ambition, the funding, the governance, and the tech behind it. Because it's explicitly designed, and this is a quote from the documents, to be politics-resistant, capture-resistant, and bureaucracy-light.
A tall order.
A very tall order. It's an attempt to build a permanent global engine for a planetary problem.
So let's start with that crisis. Why is this even needed? The ocean gives us half our oxygen. It regulates our climate. Why is the global funding for ocean research stuck at around $5 to $10 billion a year?
Well, it's not just that the funding is inadequate, though it is. It's that the structure is inadequate. $10 billion sounds like a lot, but it's, 10 to 20 times less than what we spend on space?
Right.
But the real problem is that capacity is spread so thin. You have more than 100 national agencies, countless universities, various UN bodies. They're all doing great work.
But in their own silos, that's the issue, right?
Exactly. The problems. Climate tipping points, microplastics flooding across borders, biodiversity collapse. These are interconnected global systems problems, and they need shared, sustained, unified infrastructure to solve them.
So because we don't have that, we get incompatible data, people redoing the same work, and just huge gaps in what we know, especially about the deep sea.
And the high seas,
Yeah.
the parts that belong to no one and everyone.
So, okay, if that's the failure, what's the price tag to fix it? The number in this proposal is, well, it's eye-watering. We're talking about an annual budget of $35 billion.
$35 billion a year. And that's the level the blueprints say is required to move from this fragmented state to cohesive planetary stewardship. That budget is what enables the agency's core mission, which is three simple parts: to map, understand, and safeguard the ocean.
Simple to say, incredibly hard to do.
Absolutely. And the ultimate goal, the 50-year vision, is to get humanity to a place where we treat the ocean as a measured, modeled, and responsibly managed partner.
Which culminates in what they call the digital twin.
The digital twin of the entire global ocean. That's the holy grail here. A single, fully instrumented, predictive model. We'll get more into that later, but that's the end game.
Okay, but getting $35 billion a year is hard enough for one country, let alone a global body. So that brings us to, I think, the most critical part of this whole thing. The governance. How do you make it stable?
The designers looked at what worked. They drew a lot of inspiration from CERN, the European Nuclear Research Organization. So GOESA is set up as a council model, established by an international treaty. But here's the key thing. It's designed to add capability, not replace it.
So it doesn't get rid of national agencies like NOAA in the US or JAMSTEC in Japan?
Not at all. It's meant to be the shared, expensive infrastructure backbone that all those agencies need but can't build on their own.
A federation of capability, not a takeover.
Okay.
But the money, how do you fund it without it being subject to the whims of politics every year?
That's where the funding model gets really innovative. It's layered on purpose to prevent political capture. The base layer, about 55%, is treaty-based member contributions. Multi-year commitments. That gives you stability.
The bedrock.
Exactly. Then you have the second layer, about 20%, called the Ocean Impact Levy. This is designed to tie the users of the ocean to its protection.
An impact levy? So you're talking about fees on things like international shipping or deep-sea mining. I mean, wouldn't those industries fight that tooth and nail?
They would, but the blueprint frames it not as a tax, but as a fee for shared infrastructure maintenance, like air traffic control fees. The idea is you levy tiny fees on, say, shipping emissions or licenses for commercial activity on the high seas.
And the argument is that the data GEOESA provides better storm warnings, climate modeling, would save those industries more money than the levy costs them.
Precisely. It makes the levy self-justifying economically.
Clever. And then there's this third layer. Public micropayments, only about 5% of the budget, run through something called an Ocean Guardian app. Why bother for just 5%?
Because that 5% isn't really about the money. It's about legitimacy. It creates a global constituency, millions of citizens who feel a direct ownership in the agency.
Ah, so it becomes a political shield. If a government tries to cut its treaty funding, millions of its own citizens who use this app will push back.
That's the idea. It insulates the agency.
Okay, that's political capture. What about commercial capture? How do you stop this from just becoming a profit-driven enterprise?
With a very specific firewalled commercialization entity. They call it GOI Ventures. Its job is to license the technology the agency creates, but under really strict fairness rules.
And here's the key part I saw. Its revenue is capped.
Yes, strictly capped at 5% of the agency's annual budget. Any profit over that gets redirected.
That's brilliant. It means the core mission can never become about chasing patents or profit. The profit motive is just,
Right.
It's decoupled.
Completely. The goal remains generating public goods, like data.
The whole model also seems intensely focused on global equity, especially for small island developing states, or asides.
It's baked right into the treaty, which is designed to align with the new BBNJ agreement.
That's the High Seas Treaty, right? For biodiversity outside national waters?
Correct. So GOIA adopts that focus. It mandates over $2 billion a year for capacity building in developing nations and asides.
So not just giving them data, but giving them the training and tech to actually use it.
Yes. And it goes further. 20% of the seats on the governance council are permanently reserved for asides.
So they have a real voice at the table.
A powerful one. And then there's the direct benefit sharing. 40% of that IP licensing revenue we mentioned, it goes straight into a SID's development fund.
So it institutionalizes a partnership, not just aid.
Exactly.
All right, so the governance seems incredibly well thought out, but a good structure is useless without the hardware. Let's talk about the tech, this trillion sensor monitoring network.
The scale is, well, it's astronomical. The blueprint calls for a global fleet of over 200 vessels. That includes 40 major research vessels, basically floating labs, and at least 10 new icebreakers, which are critical for monitoring the polar regions.
And I'm guessing a lot of this is automated.
Oh, absolutely. The plan requires a fleet of over 500 AUVs and ROVs for deep-sea work, plus thousands of gliders and over 10,000 smart buoys and profiling floats. That's your persistent observation layer.
But the big, iconic pieces of hardware, the things that look like a space program, are those 5 floating research stations?
Yes, the ocean space stations, as the blueprint calls them. Massive permanent platforms out in the high seas supporting hundreds of researchers at a time, far from land.
And all of this hardware feeds into that central goal, the digital twin of the ocean. What does that actually mean for someone listening? Is it like a Google Earth for the sea?
It's so much more than that. Imagine Google Earth, but it's alive. It's combined with real-time global climate model that also understands biochemistry. It's a live simulation of the entire ocean system. Currents, temperature, salinity, plankton blooms, everything.
And the computing power needed for that must be immense.
They estimate over 500 petaflops of dedicated supercomputing capacity. The goal is a model that can predict ocean conditions a month out, down to a kilometer-scale resolution.
That would change everything, from fishing to coastal flood prediction.
Everything.
Okay, that's the core work. But the blueprint also has these ocean shot missions, the moonshots.
Right. This is the 10% of the budget dedicated to high-risk, high-impact programs to capture the public's imagination. They give 3 examples. First, the Hadal Challenge for 2030.
Which
A
is,
human-occupied submersible going to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, but this time with a full science lab, staying for days to actually conduct experiments.
wow, okay, what's the second one?
The Ocean Genome Atlas by 2035. The goal is to sequence the genome of 100,000 marine species, an open-source biological library for the planet,
And the third, the climate mission, Coral Phoenix.
slated for 2040. The goal is to restore 10,000 square kilometers of coral reef using advanced robotics and biotechnology to plant climate-resilient corals at a massive scale.
You know, one thing I kept seeing was this link between space and the ocean, the space-ocean crossover. Why is that so important?
Because the engineering problems are often identical. the materials you need to withstand the pressure in a deep-sea trench. They're very similar to what you need for a habitat on Mars.
Right, harsh environments.
Exactly. And things like autonomy, life support, remote power generation, they're shared challenges. By working with space agencies, you could accelerate R&D for both domains at once.
Okay, let's get into the truly visionary part of this. The 50-year roadmap. It starts pretty quickly in Phase I with repurposing old infrastructure.
This is maybe the most symbolic part of the whole plan. The idea is to take decommissioned offshore oil and gas rigs and convert them
Into what?
into permanent ocean observatories. They call it the rig as sensor stack.
What's the advantage of an old rig over, say, a new buoy?
Rigs are huge, stable structures that go deep into the water column. They provide power, communications, and a platform for hundreds of sensors at different depths. They become these incredible planetary monitoring stations.
And the long-term vision for these hubs, say, in 2045 or beyond?
Well, they evolve. In later phases, they become test beds for human habitation, for closed-loop life support. They start to form what the blueprint calls distributed oceanic research cities.
And the final phase, Phase V?
That's living ocean infrastructure. The idea is that structures are no longer built, but grown. Self-healing, biomimicking systems that are part of the ocean, not just in it. A total shift from extraction to partnership.
But this whole thing doesn't just start with a $35 billion check. It's modular.
Oh, absolutely. The blueprint is very disciplined. It starts with a small founding kernel, just establishing the governance, the ethics boards, the open data policies. They fund maybe one or two flagship missions to prove the model works. Only then, once the foundation is solid, do they scale up the infrastructure. It's built to prove its governance first.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. The whole approach, this Go-Segoy, is a hybrid model.
It's a hybrid model, yeah. It doesn't replace the great work national institutions are doing. It federates their capability. It provides the shared infrastructure and the mission engine that no single country can build alone.
And when you look at that $35 billion price tag, the final justification is really about risk. The source material makes a compelling case that even a 5 to 10% improvement in coastal risk planning,
Driven by better data, better warning systems.
that alone could justify the entire cost in avoided damages. It's basically a planetary insurance policy.
Yeah. The cost of ignorance in the long run is just so much higher than the cost of knowledge.
So humanity built thousands of oil rigs to extract value from the ocean. This blueprint proposes a decades-long shift to building living systems that help the ocean sustain us in return. And that leaves us with a question for you to think about. What stands out as the single greatest challenge to making this vision a reality? Is it the money? Is it the international politics? Or is it the massive cultural shift required for us to truly treat the ocean as our primary life support system? That's the question we'll leave you with until our next deep dive.